I started Cardiff in 2004. I was 24 years old. I was a young man. One of the largest privately held commercial finance companies in North America. And I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was a subject matter expert. Discipline displaces motivation. The faster you can shed the motivation and don the cape and mask and cowl of discipline, the faster and further you'll get. All right, guys, good morning. Yeah, like Brad said, this is the first event that we've ever hosted together. So I started Cardiff, which is, one of the largest privately held commercial finance companies in North America, in 2004. I was 24 years old. I was a young man. And I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was a subject matter expert. So how many of you guys are subject matter experts in something, but not necessarily the greatest at scaling a business? All right, great. That was me. And maybe that's still me. Maybe we never sort of grow out of that big, that big shadow that is cast, right? We're good at something. We're good at roofing. We're good at solar. We're good at plumbing. We're good at electrical. I was good at selling, right? I was good at math. And you put those two things together. I'm Jewish, so I started lending some money. So it was natural. I sort of fell into it. No, I was groomed for it, no. But when I started the company, I started with my friends. And if that sounds like a common theme for your business, right, it's sort of what we do. We started with friends, and whether those friends are employees or shareholders, it is just sort of the common arc of how you get the shuttle off the ground, right? Well, we didn't have leads. So how did we get the leads? Well, back in the early 2000s, we had the cold call. Does that sound familiar? It sucked. It's demoralizing. Nobody wants to do it. And I would try everything I could to motivate people. But everybody here familiar with David Goggins? Yeah. So he has an interesting story. He says, he's a ultra marathon runner, right? Like over 100 miles, right? He says, well, motivation is something that will get you up in the morning and you can, put your running shoes on. And if it's 70 degrees outside, you'll go run. But what happens when it rains? What about it when it's snowing or it's 110 degrees outside in Las Vegas? That's where the motivation runs out. So what displaces motivation? Wow, you guys have heard Goggins speak before. Yeah, discipline displaces motivation. Well, in your arc, the faster you can shed the motivation, right, and don the cape and mask and cowl of discipline, the faster and further you'll get. So in any event, what I wanted to say was I had to provide leads. You couldn't just depend on people to cold call. That's not a tenable business. That's not a business you can scale. So then I realized I got to provide leads. So in the early 2000s, we pivoted to direct mail, right? Everybody here familiar with direct mail? Raise your hand. Anyone here use direct mail? Is it still important? Yeah? Is it expensive? Are there better ways to do marketing? Yes. Yeah. Should you abandon it and pivot away from it and forget about it? No. No. So when you're trying to scale a brand, right, different than growing, think of it like a roulette table. You have to put bets on a bunch of different numbers, a bunch of different areas of the table. Why? Because you never know at what point in time that bet will pay off. So we did direct mail. And direct mail worked, and I think we got to maybe 1 million pieces a month and then scaled from there. That sounds like a lot of mail, but again, right, you never know where the person will enter your funnel, right? So you got a funnel, right? Some people are top of funnel, some people are mid, right? And some people are at the bottom. We always want to catch people at the bottom of the funnel, right? Why? Ready to buy. Ready to buy. Ready to buy. But a lot of them are not ready. And so you have to what? You have to nurture. All right, who's ready to come up on stage? I don't think I need to be here. But you have to nurture. And you need systems and processes. You need software and you need a tech stack, right? But the tech stack didn't exist yet. The iPhone came out in 2008. So just imagine this. 2008, the iPhone comes out. I think I'm at the Cheesecake Factory. Probably shouldn't be there. But I walk into I'll never forget this. I walk into the Cheesecake Factory, and everybody's glued to their cell phone. And it dawned on me, my chip was on the wrong number. Does that make sense? I was mailing, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million pieces of mail, and here we are manning the phones, just waiting for that call to action, waiting for them to see the piece of mail and go, all right, yeah, now's the time. Now I'm going to call. And God, I don't know how else to explain it. It was like an epiphany. I walk into the Cheesecake Factory. She's showing us to our table, and I'm walking through like this long aisle, just like this. And everyone's glued to their cell phones. They're not talking to each other. So, God, whatever, the universe tells me, well, that's where you want to place your bet. So I didn't stop with direct mail. I just made a pivot. I earmarked. I pulled back a little bit and placed a few bets on digital. Anybody use YouTube to market? Tell the truth. Okay. That's a huge missed opportunity. You think of YouTube, you're like, well, that's where I go to watch, I don't know, Kill Tony, right? Nobody here watches Kill Tony. That's like my favorite show. Yeah? All right, there you go. Or a documentary, or, Steve Will Do It, or, whomever, right? But the truth is, it's one of the best, the largest. In fact, it has more daily streams than Netflix. Netflix is pretty big, but how do we get our brand? I own a roofing company, I own a solar company, I own a plumbing company. How do I get my ads onto Netflix? Well, if that doesn't sound like you today, then where should you place the bet? On YouTube, on Google, on Meta, on TikTok. And of course, we have people here that are going to sort of talk to you about media buying and strategy, but that's when I realized I needed to pull back, take some chips from there and put it somewhere else. And it worked. And it worked amazingly well.
Here's what they don't tell you. Systems are what set you free. Not hustle, not 80-hour work weeks, but systems. And on June 7th and 8th, I'm hosting the Real Business Growth Summit 2 at my headquarters in Las Vegas. And we're going to show you exactly how to build a company that doesn't need you in every meeting, every fire, and every decision. See, we've got executives from Meta, Google, Go High Level, and many more flying in to show you exactly how the biggest and best are doing. And if you're serious about your business, hit the link, because this is where real growth begins.
And so I didn't have that office where you walk into at like 9:30 a.m. You got your cup of Starbucks, and you've got everybody on the floor looking at you when you walk in like, must be nice to be him, pulls up in his Mercedes. Here we are working since 6:30, right? It's that resentment, right? As business owners, we struggle with that day to day. How are people going to see that I just got a Rolls Royce? How are they going to receive that? They drive in a Toyota, right? I'm walking in, right? I bear the brunt. I carry the company on my shoulders. That's what you think. And then they're seeing you walk in with your Rolls Royce and you've got your cup of coffee, pay the cost to be the boss, do. And they hate you, right? Your salespeople hate you, your marketing people hate you, HR people, everybody hates you. They resent you. Why? Because they're not you. But they don't realize, right? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Fill the sales force with leads and you solve that problem. Doesn't solve all problems, but if you don't have individualized roles and responsibilities within your company, where you have passionate people with passion and expertise and experience domiciled to individual role and responsibility, right? If you don't have that, then you have resentment. Why? Because you have an expectation for your employees to do a job and to do it well. But if you don't give them the opportunities, the leads, Brad calls it the opportunities, if you don't give them the opportunities, then what? Well, they feel like you're not providing, right? And then how do they reciprocate? Anybody take a guess? They don't perform. They don't perform, but Brad said it the best. He was like, well, who do they blame? They don't blame themselves, right? They blame you. The guy that has the Rolls Royce that walks in with the Starbucks at 9:30 while everyone's been grinding for 2.5 hours. And that's a virus. And that virus permeates the entire company, all four corners. Doesn't even matter. right? You ever had people like, hey, I'm leaving, and then they take a whole bunch of people and they go to your competitor? How does that feel? How do we stop that? You flood them with leads. You flood them with opportunities. And then the company rises up. And again, we want to build like a skyscraper. We don't want to build city blocks. Why? Duplicative roles and responsibilities. Feels really good walking into a big building with a lot of people, and there's a hum, and there's a buzz, and everyone's working. And at the end of the year, December 31, you're talking to your CFO, and you're like, well, what do we have left? What's the answer? Nothing. There's nothing left. So if that feels like you, then you're building city blocks in New York instead of building skyscrapers. And so that's what we're going to try to help you do today, right? We want to help you build skyscrapers. Brad alluded to this just a little bit. You guys laughed, but in March, we're going to have the Real Traffic Summit. And Klaviyo will be there, and Attentive will be there. Everybody familiar with those names? If you're not, you're in the right room. These are probably the 2 largest email and SMS sequencing companies, right, that exist in the world. And they're pretty new, but they're the best.
What are they?
Attentive, Attentive, Attentive and Klaviyo. All right, I got to speed up my speech, but my point is Attentive and Klaviyo, Microsoft will be there from their ads platform, YouTube, Google, a whole host of the platforms that you want to grow with and platforms that you want to grow on will be there. But I just wanted to sort of explain, that was my arc. My arc was, why aren't you working? What are you doing, right? And then the way they received it was, why aren't you providing with leads? Solve that one issue, you're not out of the woods, but you've got your growth. And once you have your growth, you've got enough money to make some great decisions on how to scale. And that's why we're having this event. So, in closing, I want you to do one thing for me. I want everybody to close your eyes. I want you to trust me. Please, just do this exercise. Everybody close their eyes. I'm going to look around the room. If you got your eyes open, then I haven't earned your trust. But everybody's eyes closed. You're in your car. You pull into the office park. You park your car. You get out. It's about 72 degrees. There's a nice breeze. The sun's reflecting off the signage that you have, right? That's your building. It's 4 stories, all glass. You built that building. It is yours. You walk into the building, there's a hum, there's a buzz, people working. Confidence is inspired just by the sound. You say hi, you shake hands, you hit the elevator button, you go up to the 4th floor. That's your floor. There's your secretary, she's briefing you. She hands you an iPad. It has all the KPIs, where we're at for the month, where we're at for the quarter, where we're at year to date. How proud do you feel? Well, you earned that. That's your building. These are your employees, and that was your arc. And it took some time to get there, but you earned it. Now, open your eyes. That's not a dream. That's your future, and you've earned it. And the first step was coming to this event. Thank you, guys.